Hello.
Yeah, we were tired of waiting on you.
All right, I think we're live now, which is super exciting. So, hello everyone. I apologize for being a little late, but we're here. We're ready to talk about rabbits. Thanks for joining us today. I get a little flustered because we had so many issues. I was like, I don't have an intro video.
we're all out of whack today.
It's all right. We'll just roll with it.
So if you don't know, my name is Brittany Sweetie. I'm the communications manager with the Livestock Conservancy. We're like super duper excited to have special guests Callene and Eric here today to talk about rabbits. And also joining us is Pork Ryan, who loves pork and rabbits.
Clearly, after the last rabbit chat, people should know I love pork and rabbits now.
So I guess we'll just jump right in.
Okay.
Callene and Eric, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do in the Rare Hair Barn?
Okay, well, the Rare Hair Barn was the largest heritage breed rabbitry in the United States that had all the heritage breeds that are on the Livestock Conservancy. And we supplied rabbit fryers to restaurants in the Midwest. And actually, we've shipped rabbits all over the country to different restaurants. But our core clientele was restaurants in the Kansas City, Wichita, and Lawrence, Kansas area. So sort of local, which we're excited about. You ask me my life story and I just go blank. I can't think, we do rabbits.
Yeah.
Yes, here we are.
Well, that's okay. I'll ask you a couple of questions. Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Kierton. I am the Breed Association Manager for the Livestock Conservancy. So Callene and Eric, after having kind of a pre-chat with you guys while we were working out some technical difficulties today, you told me a lot about the production level that you guys were at. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but kind of tell us how you even got started. Why rabbits? I mean, I'm a pig person. Why to get pigs? Just kidding, but why rabbits out of all the other species that you could have chose from?
Well, it started, we were basically just going to raise a few rabbits for ourselves. And at the time we had parents that were aging, and nutrition and all that became more important. And he had raised rabbits as a kid. He can tell you a little bit more about that. But after hearing about the 90/11 meat recall, on the news, we were like, what the heck are we doing? We can do better than this. Let's try raising our own. And it started out just to be kind of for us. And then as rabbits were brought onto the Livestock Conservancy's CPL, we decided to start focusing on some of those heritage breeds that were in need of conservation. And some of those breeds were ones that Eric remembered his granddad working with back in the day. And so it just kind of all sort of fell into place from there. But, it started just from a desire to take better care of ourselves and our own food supply.
Well,
Wow.
we really didn't have the initial intent to become as big as we did.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like chicken math.
The breeding stock end of it is to really put out good breeding stock, you have to handle a lot of animals. And in order to do that, if you cull like you should,
Right.
you dwindle down the amount of animals that become breeding stock. So it ended up with us having a lot of surplus animals, and there was only so much of it we could eat, and friends would get them talked into eating it. And so the next phase was, if we're going to try to repopulate some of these breeds that were in danger of being gone, for us to step up our numbers, we would have to take it to the next level. And that meant that we had to find an outlet for those surplus animals, and that meant restaurants. And then she had to get on the phone, and I would, with my cancer battle stuff, it kind of was, I'm kind of a up night person anyway, and I would sit and just Google restaurants that I thought were in the same mindset of what was becoming the trend of different protein sources that, you know, they might have bison on the menu or duck or some poultry, and I'd give her a list and I'd say, okay, cold call these people, and she would go into a closed bedroom and have her strip together, and I would hear her in there, and she would come out with a blank look on her face, and we got told no more than we got told yes.
But we got told, I got told no so many times that legit the first time the guy said yes, I almost hung up on him. Like, okay, oh, wait, you said you want to try this? Okay.
And we sent out a lot of free samples, and you know, there was more people, I think, eating rabbit at one time than we were, because we were just trying to get it out there because chefs would be interested in it. And they're, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it on the menu. We had even one really ended up being a really good customer and friend. They were even told if they put it on their menu, they wouldn't come into their restaurant. And they went ahead and did it anyway. And it became an icon on their Facebook page, a rabbit. And so it just, we had to sell the, you know, you hear about telling the story and being stewards of heritage breeds, and we had to tell the story and get the chefs to want to tell the story too, to continue it, because the way it ended up, we needed them as much as they needed us, because it became part of their story with their farm to table. Before a lot of it, before the word foodie ever even came up, we were part of that. And so once chefs got on board and they told other friends, and we had a chef that was at Chez Panisse out in Berkeley, California, that we shipped an expensive batch of rabbit out there. The shipping cost more than the rabbit. And he was a young upcoming chef out there, and when he came to Kansas City area and opened his own little farm to table restaurant, he loved what he had found out working with the heritage rabbits compared to commercial rabbits, that when he opened, he contacted us, and that he told another one, and then another one, and then pretty soon she didn't have to make those cold calls anymore. There was calls coming in, and at one time the rabbits were sold before they were even born. There was a waiting list for the carcasses. And then, you know, she kept saying, you know, how big do you want to get with this? And I said, well, you know, I'm a believer in stepping out, but it's a niche, very niche market. It's not like beef or poultry or anything else, that you can't hatch eggs and have a certain amount of animals ready at a harvest time. You don't know what's going to be replacement animals. And we didn't bring anything in from the outside. So I replaced all of our own breeding stock within. So I had to keep that. Plus I took the next level, sold it as availability to other people. Then that left the culls to go out and be gone, that we didn't want in the system to be breeding stock. So there's always that old saying, all you got to do is put two rabbits together, and you know, and a certain amount of time you're going to have a bunch. Well,
except when you want that to happen.
Yeah. So, and then you have orders coming in that you didn't have product for, which they would go somewhere else, and it's hard to get that back once they leave. And so we at one time basically had enough to build up a inventory. When those calls would come in, a box of 12 could go out fairly easy. So that was never the intent, to get to that line of having your own FedEx account, and you know, it just, and a huge feed bill and a huge processing bill, and you know, and it just became a gigantic business. But we sent, you know, we're still putting breeding stock out, so I feel good that we're still carrying on our original intention
Mission
of keeping those heritage rabbits in the forefront.
Did we even answer the question you originally asked?
You know what? I don't know. I don't even care if you answered my question, because whatever your answer was far better than my question. I just again, I knew this was going to be an amazing chat, especially after even seeing you guys even had a book, and we're going to get into that too. You know, Eric, when you were talking, oh, look at that beautiful book. Y'all see that? We're going to talk more about that in a second. You know, but Eric, while you were talking, it reminded me of something that I teach not others, it's not a cow chat, other farmers, potential breeders, about looking at, you know, having a market. A lot of people want to get into breeding are like, well, I want to get into breeding, but I don't know what to really do with all these other animals. And one thing I tell people who are interested in animals, heritage breeds, purebred animals, is that, you know, if you can do breeding and a meat market, especially in the pig world, not every animal is going to make the cut.
Exactly.
You know, you might get a litter, and you know, you got usually it's around like 10%.
Yeah.
You know, so you get those 1 or 2 pigs that make the cut. All the other 8 to 4 pigs don't make the cut. What do you do with those? You know, you turn them. You let your meat marketing become an avenue. It's an answer to a solution with your breeding program. Exactly. You know, and so I really enjoy the fact that you guys had that understanding and were able to make the best out of that situation. Y'all's primary goal was breeding, right? And then you realize, like, oh, we gotta find a way to. Our feed is expensive. So we gotta find a way of, you know, cutting down our feed bill. So selling rabbits was that answer. And I think a lot of people, you know, if you're listening and watching this, you know, really think about your enterprise as being able to feed into other enterprises, right? It shouldn't be these siloed, separate enterprises that you have on your farm that don't feed in, that don't have any synergy. You want to make sure that all enterprises have some form of synergy, because if you don't, you're doing probably double the work for a lot of folks. And maybe that was y'all's experience starting out, where you're doing a lot of inefficient work. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about that real quick. You know, efficiency on the farm, and I do believe that efficiency is important. I know efficiency is a commercial term, and we're small scale. We don't use the word efficiency, but efficiency is important. You know, so can y'all talk about the efficiency of your farm and how you grew into efficiency that you have? Not that it's completely perfect, but that you're still growing and learning about efficiency for your farm.
Well, I'm a numbers person, and if you don't look at any enterprise with numbers, you're gonna flop around like a fish out in the bank.
Amen. Amen. One more time, Eric.
You can look at it as inputs, outputs. A lot of times what doesn't get inputted in small operations is the value of your labor. And if you're not efficient with what you're doing, and you just got to back off and look at what you can do successfully. You can get to the point where you're doing too much and you start letting something go. And livestock doesn't give you that opportunity to get so big that you just kind of forget steps A and B and jump through the rest. And I always looked at it, and a lot of times we don't look at it as being a responsible breeder to begin with. And that means not everything that's born is a breeding animal. And that 10% it shows up in books that go way back before we ever come along trying to bring back the old livestock practices. And that was something that we always saw here in the numbers that we had, was that I had that 10% in my mind, but I never culled to a 10% number. I always looked at, okay, this is what I'm selecting for. I've got X amount of feed that goes into the right animal that gets the X harvest out of it, and I make some money. And that is what your value of what money I make is to each person. You know, is it $5 a head? Is it $6 a head? Or is it $1 a head? And at some point you start doing it just for the sake of like we were doing it for genetic preservation and animals. And so I was basically running this by myself on the production end, and we had a barn with 33 bucks in it, which was really more animals than what we needed if you look at it from an efficiency stage. But when you're putting out breeding stock, you have to have a lot of males to make lines up where you can sell trios and pairs, and being able for me to go in and feed those animals. I even had people ask, well, why don't you stack your cages? You've got 13 barns of rabbits. Well, I never thought it would probably be a good idea to rent an outhouse and live in the basement. And rabbits that are on the bottom layer are always going to get some thing they don't like. So as far as an efficiency standpoint of having the number of animals per barn, I was thinking more of the quality of life for those rabbits that were in the barn, and not being the rabbits on the bottom layer with tray drippings on them, or some inefficient way of
airflow and
quality of
size
air
breeding
and natural
pens.
lighting. So and we were at one time feeding a ton of feed a week in 4-ounce scoops, and that and we kept the barns clean to keep the manure and the flies down, and sell the manure. That's income there, but you need to have good quality manure to be a good price for it. So that was then a weekly chore of cleaning out from underneath the barns. And I'd been in barns where manure was a big problem with flies. So to add efficiency to it, I had it down to basically a one-person operation, taking care of over 400 pens in 13 barns, having litters year-round. And then every month we would bring in Callene, and another person would usually help, because we'd run every rabbit over a scale, electronic scale. So we had a pretty much uniform product for the restaurant. And so, if you start not being efficient and looking at being a responsible breeder in the beginning, because we feel like we shouldn't put out any breeding stock that I should never have to, if I'm needing that line again, I should be able to come to you and say, hey, can I get some does or bucks out of that line I sold you 10 years ago? Because I need to replace those. So the efficiency of it was to get it where your numbers, your non-efficient doe days, where if you've got does that are just sitting there not making you money. If you give them a name and pet them every day, but then you go to the feed store now, and when we started out, it was $9 a bag for rabbit feed. Now that same feed is $20. It's the same rabbit, it's the same feed, but there's more cost involved in it. And if you're dumping feed in a feeder that it goes on the ground, that's $20 a bag feed that you're letting go on the ground. So keeping your equipment up and
Wow, guys,
We go
you're
down
watching
rabbit holes
this.
a lot.
if y'all are watching this or listening to this, because we have a podcast, in case you didn't know, we have a podcast, y'all. So Spotify, all your other podcast streaming services, we are on the internet. We are on podcasts. So go check this out when it airs, and all the other content we have for our podcast. But guys, if you're listening to this, I'm just amazed by the understanding of why consistency of a product is important. When you're at that small scale, and even for y'all would technically be mid to small compared to some of the more commercial rabbit industries. And so being able to see, you're worried about having a product that's going to weigh around the same weight. From my understanding, I understand that's important, because especially when you're dealing with restaurants, let's say it's pork, because I know a lot about pork. A chef wants about the same size of roast or hams. They don't want a 30-pound ham and then a 20-pound ham. Like, it's a 10-pound difference. That doesn't work. But with rabbits, it's a lot easier to weigh one rabbit than it is to weigh a huge hunking pig.
Right.
I really enjoy the fact that you guys are finding that consistency. That way, not only you're able to have a product that is consistent across the board, even if you have individual animals, but also that you are producing consistency, having the same level, the same volume. So this is great. So sorry, I'm like turning this into like a marketing Monday because like I love people who value, business and livestock in agriculture. There's a lot to learn from it. I think that one of the most important ways of conservation for our heritage breeds is understanding the business behind it, even if you're just a hobbyist. And so, again, I appreciate the work that you're doing. It is meaningful, it is important. So thank you for that. Brittany, really quickly, do we have any questions or any shout outs of love to Colleen and Eric?
We do. We have a few coming in. If you have some more, go ahead and let us know. First one is from Julie. She says, hello, all. Glad to be here. We're glad you're here too, Julie. Thanks for tuning in. Jean says, hello, hello. So hello, June. Thanks for tuning in today. Julie says, I love the tenacity. Good job on you guys. What did the chefs want most to serve?
Good question.
Oh, gosh. I don't know that there's a good answer because what the chefs most wanted to serve. I mean, if we could have found a rabbit that was like all loin, that would have probably, everybody would have loved that because, of course, the loin is the best part. But we were real fortunate in the chefs that we worked with in that they were really creative. And, they liked the challenge of coming up with different dishes for the rabbit and thing like that. But I think, the main thing that we always tried to do is just give them a consistent product so they would know they would be getting a 3.5 to 4 pound carcass. After they'd worked with it, they knew, what they could do with that, how many dishes they could get out of it. And if you're serving a dish that is like the back leg, you don't want the leg from a 7 pound rabbit and also a 3 pound rabbit. You've got to try to get, that consistency, but they consistently amazed us with the creativity and the things that they were willing to try. So, I mean, a good chef is your absolute best friend in one of these enterprises.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not no spoiled chef.
Nope.
Not spoiled chefs that,
Nope.
oh, well, I only do things a certain way. Those are not the people that you want to do business with. And I think in a lot of cases, and tell me if I'm wrong from your experiences, those chefs will kind of weed themselves out because they won't even have an interest in purchasing from you anyway.
Right. Or they'll purchase once and then that'll be it. You won't hear from them again. And then, we had probably 8 that were consistent monthly customers for us. We could count on them. They could count on us. And I mean, and that's really, that was a lot of fun, to work with these guys and to talk to them and, kind of build those relationships and everything because, he's the numbers guy and the efficiency guy. I'm the relationship person. And so I really enjoyed building those relationships and working with those guys and seeing what they came up with.
Well, and even when my cancer hit, we were actually sorting rabbits for processing that day, and then I basically the next go around was in intensive care for 11 days, and just about I almost died, to be honest. And we had one chef, and we didn't miss a processing.
Nope, we finished the processing.
Me in the hospital bed, walking her through his full-time zoo job, and her, it wasn't like she didn't have the experience to walk through the barn, do chores, and continue the breedings. But with me, with my phone, I could answer questions, this doe's doing this and that. So we didn't miss a processing. And we even had one chef that called and thought, are you guys done? When he got word, and Colleen's like, no. We're going to have to drop the numbers down because we're not in full cannon mode and do what we were doing.
We got to figure out what the new normal is, but we're not done.
And we had another chef that became, these chefs became like family. I mean, and when you work with them that close and they're into what you're doing and push the heritage end of it and tell the story, he even was taking his regular order when he didn't even need it to keep, because he knew we were the
Dependent on it.
situation we were in and we needed to keep the cogs moving, that he went ahead and took his regular order, and the restaurant season would go down and his clientele wasn't coming in the dead of the winter, and his output wasn't going out, and his order would normally go down, but he was like, you know, I got cooler space. I know I don't want to drop my numbers because I know you guys are, you know, we're family and I'll still take it. So he build up his, you know, he had room in his cooler, and I think he even, you know, some of his chef friends in Kansas City was, you know, hey, I've got, you know, and they shared and stuff. So, you know, building a relationship with them, they're not just a customer. They're a person that knows what you're doing, knows what it takes, and
Knows why
they
it
understand
counts.
why you're doing it versus just. And we had an opportunity in the beginning. We had a person contact us, wanting 300 fryers a week, and at that time we had maybe 30. And he just was, you know, he wanted to put his own label on it, and which I wasn't too up on, because it's like an artist doing a painting and then signing their name on it. And he had grocery stores and outlets in California, and 300 fryers a week. And I was telling people about that phone call, and they were like, oh, what kind of fool are you? Why didn't you jump on that? You know, and I said, you know what logistics to putting out 300 fryers a week? That's in a bag, not have, you'd have to have more than that available. And I said, the buildings, the cost, the help it would take. And I said, that person called out of the blue. And if you even went and borrowed money, that's the last thing you want to do, is borrow money to get into a niche market. I said, I could get started and then him go away just that fast, and who would be stuck with it? And they go, oh, I never thought of that. They were doing the numbers of, well, if you're getting X amount of money for a fryer times 300, look at all that money. And I said, it doesn't quite work that way.
But they weren't using common sense.
No.
You know,
That's why when we wrote the book, and I'm always a have a plan person. You know, it's easy to get the animals usually, unless you're hunting a really rare heritage breed, but you have to put into the cookie jar logistics of, can I feed that animal 365 days a year? Can I care for that animal 365 days a year? Because if you don't take care of the animal, you're not going to get anything out of it. And rabbits are one that, you know, I tell people, anything you put in a pen, whether it's a pig, a cow, or anything, they become dependent on you. And if they don't know that, hey, I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks and have somebody come in and say, oh, well, I'll take care of them. And then there's people that's happened to, and they've lost livestock because that person, something happened. And I said, so you got to think of the commitment down the road more than Googling, I want a heritage breed. And that's where that becoming a responsible breeder and a steward of a breed is, you know, think outside the pen and money. And, you know, it's like when we started out, it was $9 a bag, and now it's twice that. And if we'd had the same going through a ton of feed a week at $18 a bag versus $9 a bag, and you're not going to get that much more for that product to cover the twice the expense. So you have to have some vision of, let's get big, but let's don't get so big we can't button our, you know, our britches and walk with them. So
preach it, Eric. Preach it. Oh, hallelujah, amen. You know, when you were talking about the restaurant, not customers, but family.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I just, the one word that came to my mind was flexibility.
Mhm.
You having the flexibility when Eric, when you were going through cancer, your operation having the flexibility to downsize, to downscale, and there not being any shame attached to it. It's just like, this is a business decision, you know, and it shows a very healthy connection between you and your business. Your business is not your identity. There are a lot of people that struggle to be flexible or downsize when times are hard or when personal life is hard, because they find so much of their identity in operation that if they downscale their operation, it's like they're downscaling themselves.
Yeah.
You know, but being able to make that distinction, say, you know what, right now we need to focus on other things, and we're going to downscale. And for your family, your restaurant family, to say, you know what, we're still going to support you because we love you, because we care about you. That's a blessing. And then also, Eric, you super blessed, man. Callene done did all that work, and you found a good thing. Let me just tell you, you found a.
Wait, could you? I'm sorry. One more time. No.
You found it, Eric. You done found a good one.
Well, we have
Oh, shoot.
we go back to, you have to tell
I
them
got
how
her
we
blushing
met.
right now, y'all. Y'all can't see it, but I got her blushing.
She'll have to tell you how we met, because we've had people ask, how can you guys work together? And sometimes you probably wouldn't want to record some of the conversations, because, for example, when we scaled down the rabbits, I always swore, and I was raised, my uncle had a big goat dairy back when I was a kid. I mean, it was a commercial goat dairy. And I'd been around goats, and I swore I'd never have a goat on this place. And then when we scaled down the rabbits, she thought, well, there's less work in this for you. And the conservation, I'm a animal conservationist to the core, and that's how we got into Arapawas. I became the Arapawa dad, you know. And so, but she'll have to tell you how we met to really get the full effect of how we got started.
Okay, are you ready for this story? Back in the day, we met when we both worked at a confinement hog operation. That was where we met. Yes. So, and I mean, honestly, he had seen me with literally every substance that comes out of a pig at any given time, on my clothes, in my hair, whatever, and he still wanted to date me. So I thought, well, maybe we'll just give him a shot. So that's how we met.
Wow.
Very romantic.
Yeah.
You saw her at her smelliest, and you're like,
it was an 1,100 sow operation too, and she was a farrowing manager, and it wasn't a glamorous, you know, job setting. So I figured, you know.
But we've never not worked together. I mean, I don't recommend it for everybody, but it works for us. You know, we have our moments that we both walk away mumbling under our breath, and then we, you know, come back and get it figured out and get whatever needs handled done.
Well, and you have, when you do it like we do it, you have to kind of just segment who's going to take on what battles. You know, she had the chef contacts and the FedEx contacts and everything on that end, and all the billing and everything, and then I handled all the kind of physical end of it, the day-to-day running after the feed and getting the rabbits ready for the processing day, and that way, when the chefs and everybody were only talking to one person,
right,
that was our operation, not me talking to them and, you know, me going, well, I don't think that's going to work. Her and I would figure out the parameters of what it took to run the meat business part of it, and she would handle that in, and she would say, okay, how many we're going to have, this is the orders I have, and, you know, we divided the work up that way, and not that way you're not overlapping and getting two conversations with people and confusion. You know, it's bad enough. And in the beginning, we had, you know, our business smacks upside the head. We had, and we were probably too trustworthy in the beginning. We didn't really.
Yeah, you make
we
your
didn't
green mistakes.
vet some of these we were in need of getting these surplus animals at home, that and the orders were coming, that we just were like, we were taking people at their word, kind of country type folks. And we had one restaurant that was a high-end restaurant down in Texas that filed bankruptcy on us to the tune of about $900. And
which, you know, doesn't sound like a lot, but $900.
you know,
is
when you're
$900.
a small producer, and $900 not flowing in, and he even tried to place another order after I kind of did a little background research, and he tried to place another order. And then we were actually at a Livestock Conservancy conference, come home, and his bankruptcy notice was in our mailbox, and he tried to place another order while we were at the Livestock Conservancy conference, and told him no on the second one. And my brother's an attorney, and I asked him, you know, it's like, what do we do with this? And he said, where are you at on the bankruptcy list? And
Like down at the bottom.
we're like number 30 out of 31. And he said, you'll spend more than $900 trying to get it. And that was $900 that we never saw again. So
But that was the exception.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the exception that taught us the lesson that, you know, ask questions, you know, kind of get to know people a little bit before you know, take them on face value. But that was by far the exception.
That's how you make friends. That's how you build family.
Yep.
Is I want to keep you. We can talk and keep you at a little distance until I can see that you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes a background check.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, now with social media, all you have to do is just kind of do a little bit of Google search, and
Yeah.
you'll find out real quick the reputations of not just restaurants, but breeders or anything else. And then you have to, you know, how far are you going to stick your neck out to find out on your own? But, you know, we learned, and it's just, that was at a bad time, because we were just in the beginnings of stepping into more production, and $900 was a big hit. And so we learned.
Well, I'm glad y'all are learning, because that's one of the responsibility of a farmer. When you're farming, I know I say this in just about all my live streams, but as a farmer, you're not just a farmer. You are everything else: marketing expert, a liaison. You know, you're doing business analysis. You're shaking hands, kissing babies. You're doing so many different things, and so I think there's a space for grace, you know, of trying to do it all per se. But I think the thing that really helps with y'all is that y'all separated those responsibilities, you know, and by doing that, that actually helped reduce the amount of conflict or button heads or knife shaking that y'all might have experienced if y'all were commingling, you know, responsibilities. So I really like that. I know I could talk to y'all for 3 hours. I know we're going to run out of time a little bit. We're going to go over because we did start a little bit late. But Brittany, do we have any more questions? And pick some juicy ones for them to answer.
Let's see. Yes. Let's see. What is your book title?
Oh, thank you for asking. I mean, we got asked, several times, or told many times, you should write a book. And so finally we did. And the title of the book is Raising Rabbits for Meat.
And it has silver foxes and American chinchillas.
Yep, and it has silver foxes and American chinchillas on the front cover. But this was published by New Society Publishing in the fall of 2018. So it was basically literally everything that we thought we knew. I mean, you never know everything, but it was, you know, what we knew. Tried to write a book that was helpful for people. Just starting, you know, not that necessarily wanted to get to the scale we did, but just more were interested in raising some rabbits for their own home use. There's a little bit in there that does cover what you need if you are going to try to step into the restaurant world, but we just wanted it to be a helpful resource for people.
Good. That's awesome. And you know, just curious, like, how many copies have y'all sold so far?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know, because I don't know what the original print run was supposed to be, but I'm gonna have to ask my publisher that question.
Good, because I was going to brag on y'all a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
We felt it's done well enough that the publisher came back to us and wanted the cow book. So
Yeah. So I guess it doesn't suck.
yeah.
You have been getting some love for your book. Let's see. Vernon says the best book ever published on raising rabbits. So
Vernon, we love you, Vernon.
Yeah.
And how can they find your book? You know, for those watching or listening, where can they go to buy the book?
It is
Well,
available
it's in
from
the
New Society Publishing. I think it is even on the Livestock Conservancy site, or at least it was at one time.
Bookstore.
It's listed, but it's out of stock right now on our website.
No, there, it's out of stock.
Well, at least we know we've sold that many copies.
We have a few copies left that if anybody's wanting an official autograph copy, we can take care of that too if they contact us. So.
Ooh, y'all hear that? Official autograph copy.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I want to hit you up on that. I actually will hit you up on that. I need to learn a little bit more about rabbits, apparently. But good. Well, any more questions that we have from the audience so far?
One more from Lori. Hi, Lori. Thanks for joining us today. She wanted to know how you fared with the restaurant closings for COVID.
Good question.
Well, we had, with his cancer, we had decided to phase down more before COVID hit. Sadly, some of the restaurants that were our good family partners are not in business any longer. So yeah, we're not big fans of COVID. It really hit a lot of small restaurants hard.
They even tried to hang on and became community kitchens. I mean, that's how dedicated they were to the Kansas City community, and it came a point where they had, you know, everyone has bills, and when the community kitchen funds ran out, their landlord needed rent money, and it just wasn't anything there. So a lot of our really good family friend chefs are not doing that right now, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah, they're doing different things and, you know, kind of trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves, but it unfortunately changed a lot of things for a lot of people.
I think that community will return. I think it's going to be further down the road than what anybody really expects as far as the farm to table type restaurants in the bigger cities. I think it's the financial end of it is, you know, people think that they would see our, you know, we became a brand and to the point of restaurants, you know, telling other ones, and then it would be on a brand, and they just sad to think that what was in the works and growing real strong is completely wiped out now, and whether the market supply to those restaurants, what's happened to it, will be able to be ready at the same time that those farm to table restaurants open back up to the level that they were before. And that's what we saw in the beginning, was that once you get started in a restaurant, and some of them would order every month and some of them would be every other month. And you really have to plan your harvest to meet their restaurant needs. And if you don't have it, they will, and we saw it, they will go to someplace like Pelfrey's or a commercial meat rabbit place and bring that in, and then it'll be cheaper than what you were selling it to them for, because Heritage Livestock carries a higher price. It's hard for them to go back to you when you're selling it at $9 a pound, and they can get it from Pelfrey's in Arkansas for $6 a pound, have the same dish, but on a sidebar conversation, they'll tell you it's not the same. But it's thing to them. And they think that, you know, well, I just saw a $26 rabbit dish on a restaurant you're in. You got to be making a ton of money. It's like, I'm not making what the dish sells for. I guarantee you, if you sit down with these chefs like we did with some of them and have drinks with them and talk business, you know what the profit margin is actually going on at a restaurant. By the time they pay their overhead and everything else, they're not getting rich either. So it's two entities together trying to make enough money to do what their goal in life is to save heritage breeds and them help you save them by putting them on the table. And neither one of them are getting rich. Now there are some restaurants that are, you know, doing fairly well, but they're not doing strictly heritage breeds.
Well, really quickly, you know, one thought I had before this conversation was, what's the difference, like in terms of taste, texture, cookability of your heritage rabbits versus the commercial breeds, crosses that you might find from other, what's the proper term for people who raise rabbits? Is it rabbit raisers? What's the actual term? Rabbit farmers? Do y'all like that? Crazy people, yes, I love that. Let's do crazy people. Some are crazier than others, apparently. But, yeah, you know, what's the difference in taste quality and texture and palatability?
I don't think I've ever eaten a commercial rabbit. I've been pretty spoiled, but some of the feedback that we've gotten has been that the commercial rabbits just don't have the flavor. They're kind of almost a chalky taste. They're not as tender because I think, you know, some commercial rabbits may be, you know, older breeding stock, you know, spent rabbits and stuff, so they don't have the tenderness and the palatability.
Well, and it also goes back to that it's a fast produced animal. It's bred, you know, New Zealand or commercial rabbits, they're bred to grow fast. And we saw with, you know, with the heritage breeds, it'll take a little bit longer. So that muscle and you know, it's just a whole different process that when it doesn't matter whether it's rabbits or pork or whatever, when you speed that process up, something's got to give. Is it gonna be texture? Is it gonna be flavor? We even, God, how many years ago was that? We got a grant to finish rabbits on pasture. And I put down 4 foot wide, 1/2 by 1 inch wire, 50-foot pieces down on PVC, and we had a shelter that ran on top of it like a train on a track, and I'd move the rabbits every day and they would eat the grass, and then hopefully the grass behind them on the track would grow up, and that way they wouldn't get out and things wouldn't get in. And the goal of it was we sent the samples of meat off to have, what all did we have tested?
We had CLA tested and protein content, a couple other
and
things.
It was native prairie grass, because that's what we have here. And we had a mix of rabbits in, because we kind of inherited some adopted rabbits, and then we had the start of the heritage rabbits. So it was a mix of weaned rabbits that we all made sure they weighed the same weight. Some of them were litter mates, and put them in there. And what we started to see was that some of them did fairly well and some of them didn't grow at all. And so I had to start substituting free choice oats. And then it just was a mess of, they didn't finish all at the same time like a rabbit on pellets. Pellets are designed that every bite is a balanced diet when they eat it. If you offer rabbits other stuff, they're going to pick and choose what they eat, and there's no way they're going to finish at the same time. So when we did the analysis, part of the program or the grant was to blind send samples of meat to chef to have them work up something with it and we did that. And the meat actually was had a little yellow tint to it, and that was from being grass fed. But some of the comments that came back from the chefs was the one that they never wanted to, and we did some on pellets, the same age of rabbits, same time frame. We did some on pellets just to have a comparison between a group on grass and a group on pellets. Well, the ones on pellets finished sooner and was more uniform. But one of the comments that stuck out was and they didn't know what breed it was, but it ended up, the comment was that it was chalky, pasty taste, and I would hope to never have it again, was a New Zealand raised on pellets. So, I mean, that was a person that had no idea what they were getting, just the meat. So, but it took, we figured about a timeline, depending on the breed. The chinchilla, which is my rabbit, will finish at about 10, depending on what size carcass you want. About 10 to 12 weeks is a good marketing age for them. The stuff we did on grass was twice that. It was like 24 weeks to even get to the weight of what one on pellets. And within that time frame, you take a chance of losing it. The longer you have an animal that you're hoping to harvest it, said date, the more days you have it, the more chances something could happen to it, whether it's outgrazing and lightning strikes it during a thunderstorm. The more days you have it, the more days it costs you. And so, and then the downside of running them on grass is if you have, and we went through years of droughts here during the summer, was if once that grass got ate down, if I didn't have grass growing up behind it, I'd have to irrigate it to get grass to grow. And then they really didn't finish that well on them. If you start looking at the efficiency of doing it, and there might be a little bit difference in taste if you're after a taste only, but you're going to keep the animal, twice as long, more risk, and not having them all ready to process at the same time.
Well, really quickly, I think I'll learn more than I've ever learned about rabbits in my lifetime in just that 5-minute conversation. But really quickly, Brittany, I think we got time for one more question, and we're going to have to wrap it up. Do we have one other juicy, really good question that we can finish strong on this broadcasting?
I'll give you a couple of choices. We can talk about your favorite rabbit recipe, if you show your rabbits, or how you process rabbits for restaurants.
Okay.
Which one do you prefer?
I think we can hit all three. Our favorite way to eat rabbit is on the rotisserie on the grill with some butter and zesty Italian inject into the rabbit, and it doesn't even make it into the house half the time. We'll just eat it off the rotisserie skewer.
Well, and I came up with a rub in the last few months that rubbed on the rotisserie is another. It's hard to decide which one's better, the zesty Italian one or the rub. Yeah. But rotisserie, you don't have to cut it up. You just skew it, put it on there, and let it slow turn and let the juices run in it. And you can pull meat off of it and make salads and chili and tacos. And I need to go rotisserie. Or
just take it off the rotisserie and just gnaw and munch
now
on
I
it.
forgot what the other two questions were.
Like a caveman. Oh, no.
Show.
Oh, we don't show. It's just something we never had time for, but we do. A lot of the people who have bought breeding stock from us have gone on really well to do well showing, because all our rabbits, even if we don't show, they meet the breed standard, and a good meat rabbit that adheres to the breed standard should at least be competitive on the show table. So I don't know, I forgot the other one. Sorry, I've got the working memory of a goldfish.
The last one was go ahead, Brittany.
How do you process rabbits for a restaurant?
For restaurants, it has to be processed under USDA inspection. And that is unfortunately one of the biggest barriers to doing the kind of thing that we did is it's very difficult to find a processor that does rabbit.
Well, they're inspected under the Poultry Act. So what you have to do is locate a processor that has a USDA vet inspector there that is willing to do the paperwork to do rabbits. And both places that we had doing them had never done rabbits before. I mean, they were doing poultry, and through her convincing work, we convinced them that because we wouldn't have been able to do anything. And if you have to truck them a long distance, and the furthest, I mean, we were about an hour and 10 minutes one way. And so, which is fortunate to a lot of people, but you have to figure that expense in and everything. So, it's.
And because it is considered voluntary inspection, it's not covered under any of the USDA, support for like beef and pork and poultry. So you wind up paying for that inspector out of your own pocket. It's factored into the processing cost. So that's, another thing. Do your research and find out what that's going to cost you before you.
That usually is an hourly expense plus his travel.
And so, you want to make it worth that cost. So you don't want to take 10 rabbits, because it'd be exorbitant.
Where we were doing 150 a month, it makes a huge difference in coming in with, when we first started out, and 30 was a big processing, but what happened was that the price of processing, like everything else, when we were at 30, it went up, and it was almost to the point where it wasn't penciling out by the time what the market would bear, the expense of putting that animal in a bag was just getting to the point where, you have to decide, do you want to carry this legacy on or cut it, raise Arapawa goats, So.
Great choice.
Arapawas. If you raise any Arapawas out there, people, just wave and say hi.
Yeah. Or the Pineywoods. We're the old Pineywoods.
Oh man, but and really quickly, kind of to comment on what you guys were saying, in my our last interview, me and Brittany with Eric from Arba, and we were talking about how easy it is to just process it yourself. But when you are selling to restaurants, you have to be USDA inspected.
Yeah.
It's not even a question. You can't process your own animals and then try to sell them off.
Right.
That's just not going to work.
You also need to get your local and state laws, because everybody has their own little, you got the federal USDA part, and then, every farmer's, it's just, and they won't take, I didn't know as a defense.
Yeah.
Nope.
You get in trouble.
Sure will. But there are ways of, if you're doing at a very home scale, of finessing. I know that I have a lot of people who are doing butchering classes. And so the way that they market their class, market the experience rather than the meat. And so, their defense is, well, if an inspector comes, their defense is, well, I'm marketing a class. The byproduct of my class is meat. Just like the byproduct of you guys breeding is meat, right? You're doing breeding stock. Meat's just a byproduct, right? This is someone who's doing a butchery class. Meat's just about, I would be like, what am I going to do with the meat? I'm just going to give it away to them. They already paid $250, $300, $500 to be a part of this class. The least I can do is give them some meat for free, right? Air quoting free. So,
free is a good word.
You can put that on the label and we got this class, a couple $100, and free rabbit at the end.
Or the word
gift bag,
or the word donation the word donation has a big, broad spectrum to it too. It's,
I like that.
it was a donation.
I like that. I like that. Well, folks, we are out of time, but I've enjoyed this. Colleen, Eric, y'all are a hoot. Y'all are a hoot, and HOOT.
We've been
Y'all
called
are
worse.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your time. I'm gonna pass off to Brittany if she has any last closing statements. And it's the book, guys. It's the book. It's the book.
Our shameless plug segment of the cast today. So if you want to hold up your book and just read out the title and where people can find it. And
It is Raising Rabbits for Meat, New Society Publishing, Livestock Conservancy, Amazon, or us.
Or
Message us.
Google it. I never thought I'd have a book available at Walmart, or Target. It's when I was a kid, I never thought I'd have a book anywhere actually. So
that's super exciting. And y'all have a website that people can go to.
Yep, rarehairbarn.com.
Perfect. So go check it out. Get their booked. Leave them a testimonial. Tell them how awesome it is, because it's true.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to our members and supporters. Thank you for making live chats like this possible. We couldn't do it without you. If you're not a member, Ryan would love to give you the conservation champion spiel.
All right, folks, I do this every time I get to speak. I am a conservation champion of the Livestock Conservancy. I don't just work here. I also help conserve through my donations to the Livestock Conservancy. And part of the reason why it's a really economical decision for me to be a conservation champion is because I only pay $4 a month. $4, y'all. That's not breaking the bank. Me being able to pay $4 a month actually helped me get out of debt quicker. So, $4 a month. Most people can swing that. It's not that, I got to pay $45 a year and then you forget to renew your membership. I've heard so many people do that. I thought I paid. But what do you mean? I did. I thought, did I not send the check in the mail? No more of those excuses. You don't have to worry about that now. We will just take $4 a month directly out, count, super easy. You don't even have to worry about it. You never even know it was gone. That's the great part about it. I look at my bank statement and I'm like, $4. I barely flinched at that. So guys, $4 a month, cheaper than a cup of Starbucks coffee. So feel free to be a conservation champion if you can't do a full $45 annual membership. You can definitely start at the conservation champion level. And actually, honestly, it sounds better. Like, it just sounds better. I'm a conservation champion. That sounds way better than I'm an annual member. Like, no. Be fancy about it, y'all. Be fancy about it. Anyways, we are so happy and proud for those who have donated in the past and are currently donors. Y'all are really helping support content like this. And I'm really grateful that I get to be a part of this content and that we have people like Colleen and Eric who are able to really dispel myths about rabbits, being able to teach people how to properly market rabbits, how to properly raise rabbits, how to look at your rabbit enterprise as a business. This is information that honestly is worth a couple $100, if not more. I'm just gonna be honest with you, that you get for free, with the exception of that book. Go check out their book. Go check out their book. One more time. Hold up. One more time. Yeah. Raising Rabbits for Meat. Go check that book out. Go find it on the internet. Google it. Easy search. And help support Colleen and Eric in their endeavors as not just people who raise rabbits, but also rabbit educators. All right. Back to you, Brittany.
Yes, if you're enjoying content like this, please like, share, comment. Tell your friends to download it while they're walking their dog as a podcast. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for tuning in today. And we will be back next week on Monday to talk with John about stag bets. So he's a veteran who also raises rabbits.
Yeah, so quick plug on Marketing Monday. for next week. So John Jackson of Comfort Farms, also Stag Vets, ex-Army Ranger. This guy is amazing, and he's a personal friend of mine. So if you want to learn more about how to market rabbits, John is a straight shooter. He's going to give you meat, bones, potatoes, carrots. He's going to give you the whole thing. So definitely come Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear his story and hear how he's not just raising rabbits for meat, marketing rabbits, but also how he's using that as a way to rehabilitate veterans who are coming out of the Army and back into civilian life.
Absolutely. We'll see you all next week. Thanks again for joining in today. And thanks to Callene and Eric. You've been so wonderful.
Thank you, guys. This has been fun.
Bye.
Bye.